Hi everybody, Russ from My Hammers 11. Hope you are all safe and well. If you use the channel, please consider subscribing, hit the bell icon so you made it anytime we put new content on. As always, I'd like to thank our lovely channel sponsors, Untuck It. Check them out in the description below, but also Irons Point Food Banks. Keep an eye, check out for them. You can donate ironsfoodbanks.co.uk. We'll put the ticker in during the show. And yeah, today we've got another appreciation night. You guys love them, so we keep sending them. I know Sean loves them. So that's why we're doing extra long one for Sean today. I see Nigel in the background. Right, so today we are doing with the man himself, Stretch appreciation on Alvin Martin. He's got no hair, but we don't care. It's Alvin Martin. And as always, in these things, we're joined by Mr. Martin Godleman. How are we, sir?
We're good. I've got the fixtures here. Do you know what really sickened me? I opened today to write the fixtures in, and they've been in there for a year. How did they know? What's that all about? Anyway, more from this magic book to come, and some amazing stories about the fabulous Stretch and stuff that you would not believe. Because, you know, for a guy who's like our fifth most appearances, a guy who's alive and in the top 5 and isn't Billy Bonds, it's quite something, isn't it? Quite something.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And also, everyone, if your comments and stuff, if you put in hashtag Stretch, then you get entered into a prize draw to win an Untuck It shirt at the end of the day. So there we go. Just me. Anyway, so I've got Mr. Martin Godleman, as always, the man himself behind the shed door is Mr. Shedman. It's Nigel Kahn. Hi, Nigel. How are we doing, man?
I'm good. And his little friend.
He's got his T-shirt. Mine hasn't arrived yet because here we go. They have to get a bigger size. What a surprise!
I actually, it's called favouritism, Russ.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Apparently so. So yeah, they haven't got my size yet, John. Just saying. How are we, Nigel? We doing well? Enjoying the Euros?
Loving it. Yeah. Doing my Euro diary over at canningtownlen.com, so check that out.
Indeed.
Thought I'd get the link in. I think I've missed about the 2 o'clock games have been a bit difficult recently, but I've seen all the 5 and 8 o'clock games. Of course, I only watched the first half today, Russ.
Well, don't matter.
The Dutch are going to win anyway, so who cares?
That's 1 up, isn't it? Exactly 1 up, and Arnie's not playing, so
no.
What's the fuck?
He lights up the pitch, doesn't he?
Probably is playing, but not in the way we understand.
Yeah. Bless him. But anyway, apart from that, England, Scotland tomorrow. Exciting. I'm excited. I'm a right to. I don't when it's like, as I said, when it's like the friendlies or like the Nations Leagues. I'm not into it, but I'm proper into. I've got the sticker book and everything now, you know. So proper into it now. I'm looking forward to tomorrow now.
Well, I'd bring back the British own championship. You're probably a bit. I don't know, you'd have caught that, but the reason it stopped was I think England got a bit too big-headed and thought it was a waste of time playing Wales and Northern Ireland, and Scotland beat us like every decade. That was it. And of course, sod's law, I think it was Northern Ireland won the last one, which I think was 1982 or 83. And I'd bring it back, because if you look at Wales now, Scotland, even Northern Ireland, you can throw the Republic in. And have a nice little tournament there every season.
It's a great idea.
But there won't be anything to link these countries in about a couple of years, will there? It'd be just like us playing France or playing Norway or something. Yeah. So I suppose we should just have a sort of a nostalgic home international tournament. One last one before United Ireland and Scots go their own way and stop.
Well, perhaps it's a way of keeping it together, Mark.
Yeah.
Good point.
Didn't think about that. Yeah.
You're in the dark a bit, actually.
I think actually Nigel's like illuminated today.
I'm normally in the dark.
Yeah. Nigel's illuminated today. I like it. He's got a new light. New light. Check that out. Look, all those selfie lights.
Like I nicked that off my daughter.
Yeah, yeah. Just for those selfies, isn't it, Nigel? But anyway, so obviously today we're talking about Stretch, and as always, Martin's done a little video. Do you want to introduce it, Martin, at the beginning?
I'm going to introduce it. I'm going to first of all give you something, you spotters, something to watch out for. It's just actually not anything you're going to see in the video as usual, but it's to do with. I was looking at the first team that Stretch played in when he came on as a sub, and he was playing in a team that had Tommy Taylor in it, for God's sake, John McDowell and Bobby Ferguson, because Mervyn Day had been out for a while, and he didn't play very often with Ferguson or for Day, interestingly enough. But that was I'm going to look a lot at the end of that 77-78 season, because we should not have gone down. We had one bad game in that last 7 or 8 games, and it was Alvin Martin's nightmare. He'd been walking on water since he'd made his debut, and then he gave away 2 penalties at Old Trafford, and suddenly we had to win the last game against Liverpool. We lost it. QPR stayed up by 1 point, and then the following season we signed their keeper. Though we're in the 2nd division and they're in the top division, we signed Phil Parks. So how weird was that? And there's all sort of symbiotics. But yeah, something to look for, or at least to be thinking about. What was particularly special about Stretch's last game? His last game, I will tell you, was in May 1996, having made his debut in March 1978. I mean, that's a huge,
incredible, isn't it?
19 seasons. That's a lifetime and a half. So what was special about that last game? Anything?
So, you know.
Avant le shed the door.
I've started, so I finished. Yeah,
something to do with Brazil, I think, but that's the only clue I'll get.
Look at Nigel. Nigel's got his wife's glasses on today, just in case you wonder. He hasn't got Elton John on his glasses choice. But
I was rushing and I picked the wrong setup.
They look like your wife's glasses, Russ, if you don't mind me saying.
They do, yeah. He could do it.
How would you know, Mark? He works from home now. He don't even go out.
Don't go nowhere now. Anyway, let's get his video on before I have a domestic.
Enjoy this. And apologies for showing the 2 bad bits, but Stretch knows at some level that I have a sense of humour, and so I thought I'd chuck these 2 bad bits in him, because I mean otherwise he's like the son of God. We can't have him too good.
No, of course.
We'd have to give him 10 at the end. Are we going to give him 10 at the end? We will see.
Oh.
Alvin Martin, born in Walton, Liverpool, was the captain of the Hammers side of 1985-86 that finished 3rd in the old First Division, missing out on the championship by just 4 points. West Ham's most successful ever achievement in the league. Martin nevertheless worked his way up through the youth team at West Ham, joining them from school and making his debut in March 1978 in West Ham's relegation season. So he certainly knew what it was to be part of a developing team under manager John Lyle, and he soon earned the nickname Stretch for his determined tackling at the back. Martin was one of the players bridging the gap between the 70s and 80s, and became part of Lyle's new look Hammers, who beat First Division Arsenal in the 1980 FA Cup final.
Billy Bonds lifts the FA Cup for West Ham. To win a major cup like this, and we're still all quite young, you know. Superb, yeah.
The following season, Martin was in the team that reached the 1981 League Cup final and won the Second Division Championship at a canter by 13 clear points. Martin's popularity accounted for the fact that he won Hammer of the Year 3 out of 4 years in succession, from 1980 to 1983. Now back in the old First Division, Martin began to attract attention from top sides and English managers alike, but he chose to remain at West Ham throughout the majority of his career.
Martin's come up for this. Devonshire's going to take it. He's the one calling for it. Devonshire falling over, but Martin gets to this one. Whitton turns! and Hammers have a lead, a shot lead on 9 minutes. Kahn with the corner for West Ham. Hit high to the far post, Martin's there, and Kelly's there, almost on the line, assisted by the header from Martin, who got up above the Plymouth defence, and West Ham have a goal, and it's David Kelly.
Alvin Martin was to take the captaincy 6 years later, after Billy Bonds was badly injured in a game at home to West Brom. His first season with the armband was West Ham's best ever in the league, and Martin even managed a hat-trick in an 8-1 drubbing of Newcastle United. A unique hat-trick, as all 3 of his goals came against different goalkeepers. Here are those goals from that game, and Martin's account of the day.
A lot of activity just in front of the goalkeeper. It looked like McAvenny was pushed, but it doesn't matter because Alvin Martin is there to finish it off, and West Ham go into the lead. Excellent free kick from Devonshire. A push there surely on McAvenny. Martin made sure. Terrific flick on by Gale, and Martin finished it off in style. Martin can complete his hat-trick here and make it West Ham 8, Newcastle 1. And he's done it! An incredible day for Alvin Martin and for West Ham. And Newcastle have just been swept aside here.
It's not often you get the chance as a centre-half to get a hat-trick. So when the crowd started chanting Alvin, I picked the ball up and went in and took it, you know. It was probably the worst hat-trick anyone's ever seen, to be honest. 3 different goalkeepers. Every time I think the first keeper was injured before he even went out, otherwise I wouldn't have scored that one. And the second one was an outfield player, which weren't a good goal either. He should have saved it, to be honest. And the third one was a penalty against Peter Beardsley, so it wasn't a great hat-trick, but it's in the record books and they can't take it away from me.
West Ham finished that season in 3rd place, and Martin went on to play for his country in the 1986 Mexico World Cup the following month. He won 17 full England caps and continued in defence for the Hammers, seeing another 2 promotion and relegation seasons before 10 years later finally leaving Upton Park, having recorded an impressive 586 appearances for West Ham United and scoring 32 goals. But Alvin Martin's career had its upsides and its downsides, as these moments indicate quite clearly.
It's an own goal by Alvin Martin. Stooping, put it past his own keeper. Port Vale a level.
Toe somebody. Martin's going to be in trouble here. He was beaten for pace. Wallace was past him, and he knows it. The question is, was Wallace in on the keeper? Was he likely to score then? And we'll see what the referee Burge judges. You see yellow and red there. His name's going in the book, that's for sure. There doesn't appear to be any rush to the changing room. It was a case of Martin's old legs there. 59th minute. Wallace had the legs of him, and he held him back. And, well, there might be some who'd say that Martin should have gone off. He certainly would have done if that had been the World Cup.
Free kicks. And almost a vote of confidence for him that Chapman was sold. Now here's Breaker trying to get through. Nolan, that was a back pass, and Pressman couldn't handle it. And down goes Bright. Another challenge of Martin. Now, what's the referee going to do here?
Well, it can be no more than a yellow card. I felt for Alvin Martin a little because he just lost his footing. And then it was always clumsy after that.
Oh my goodness me, he's given him a red card.
I can't believe that.
Well, he obviously interpreted it that the striker was for a young goal.
Faces, they can't believe it. They can't believe it. And I have to say, I can't believe it, Ian. He is 5 yards when the tackle happens in the Sheffield Wednesday half. He's not even in his own half. There are other players who are undoubtedly in the picture who can do something about it. Now look at this. That's what, 5 yards in the Sheffield Wednesday half. There's a player in shot there. There's another one coming in. I find that incredible, I really do.
Martin came on as sub in his last game with debutant Rio Ferdinand, a player who was to follow him into the England team from the grassroots of West Ham's youth academy. Martin went down the road in the 1997-98 season at the ripe old age of 38 to play out his last days at Leyton Orient before 2 years of management at Southend United. Here are another 9 Martin goals from the 32 he scored in his Upton Park career.
Coming in on that right touchline. Oh, and it could be there, Martin! Alvin Martin! Stewart's free kick. Up goes Martin to the far post! And West Ham have 2. And Bury all over the place. And now another corner from West Ham, headed on by Gale. Martin! And the West Ham captain, the tallest man in the team, has scored with a right foot volley right into the top corner. Beautifully headed on by Gale, but look at this finish from Martin. Glorious goal.
Kahn. Martin. Well, West Ham must have been shaken up by the half-time talk.
Good atmosphere, the keeper's missed it, Martin hasn't! And West Ham have a goal. And it could be vital against Oldham. They've got plenty more to get. It's a good ball from Bishop. The keeper's dropped it, and Martin has put West Ham ahead after just 2 minutes. Morley's effort. Keeper couldn't hang on to it, but there was Alvin Martin. Surprise arrival.
Ham looking for goal number 4. Floated in there towards Dix.
Put it in by Martin. And goal number 4 duly arrives. His first of the season.
Breaker. Lovely touch from Morley, and Breaker's through. Might get the cross in. Up goes Alvin Martin, it's out! He looked like he was going to score one a few minutes ago, and now he has. His 3rd advancement up into the Oldham penalty area. The cross came in, and it was beautifully weighted. And really simplest of headers, but he buried it.
What can West Ham make of this free kick? Oh, Alvin Martin, the scorer! His 2nd of the season. He makes a habit of scoring against Newcastle United, this fella.
And there we go.
And Gary McAllister, you notice, playing for Leeds. We just had a little look at him just to remind us of who missed the penalty for Scotland back in those days, all those days ago. A complete accident, but a delight. So what was that special moment? You said something, Nigel, about Brazil, which intrigued me. What was that all about?
Well, obviously, the last game that he played was Rio's debut.
What are the chances of that? It's like,
what are the chances? And obviously, Rio's first touch for West Ham was to stick it in the top of the upper tier in the old West Stand.
Yeah, this fantastic
ball Rio stand.
Yeah, this fantastic ball playing with yes, the centre back we were all hoping would come along, and the first he does is lump it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Scaloni should have kicked it in 2006.
Well, yeah, enough said about that.
My memory keeps bringing these unfortunate memories back. You know,
they certainly do, man.
If you've suffered as a West Ham fan, you know what we're talking about. But you're here tonight to enjoy one of the greatest players. And if you've had the misfortune of never seeing Alvin Martin play for West Ham, you have missed something. Either of you know exactly how tall he was? I should say. He's still around.
6'4", isn't it?
He is 6'4", yes.
Yep.
You can't catch this man out, can you?
You can't catch him out. Available on canningtownlen.com.
There's a bit of commentary on there. It's like, there he is, the tallest man on the pitch, and you think, the fuck's that got to do with anything?
But didn't you say it? It's not you?
I don't know what the hell I was on about. Perhaps it was because you'd expect Martin to score with a header, and he hits that beautiful volley. They're all Tony Cottee goals, though, aren't they? All in the 6-yard box. But
the fox in the box.
Fox in the box. There he is. So, you've got to look at. I think I've got to say, if I just give us a start on Stretch, you've got to remember this is a guy who, a bit like Declan Rice and Chelsea, should have been an Everton player, but because they're short-sighted up there, I don't know why, but they were only giving him half a quarter of an apprenticeship, which probably wasn't worth a side of bread and butter, really. And he had the common sense to come down to London to go to his trial with QPR, which apparently, so rumour has it, and legend and all that, he didn't have a great game, and they went, yeah. Tall, that's about it, though. Luckily, though, being an organised fella, he had a West Ham trial the next day. You see, it's this QPR West Ham thing with Phil Parkes. You see, it's all coming through. And Phil Parkes, where was Phil Parkes at that time? Probably playing in the QPR side, maybe. Would he have been? No, he wouldn't have been. He'd have been at Walsall then. Sorry, forget that. But then he has this fabulous game for West Ham. What accounts for how well you play in a trial? You know, what happened to Declan Rice at Chelsea? How the F could they not see that guy was going to be who he became? And why did West Ham see it? Why didn't Chelsea see it? Not that I'm complaining, of course, you understand.
Exactly.
But that's the same thing with Alvin Martin. There is a connection here to England players, to lifelong West Ham players. Declan Rice, you know, when he finishes his career, he'll have, 500 appearances for West Ham?
Oh, at least. That'd
be so wonderful. And we'll be saying, who would have thought in modern age that one player would play for one club for so long? When Chelsea were interested, Man United were interested, when he played, of course, remember the game in the quarterfinals of Euro 2020 when he scored that fantastic goal and he absolutely marched De Bruyne out of the game when Belgium played their first bad game of the tournament. That's how we got into the semi-final. People will never forget that game. And of course, then he goes on to get all the other
accolades and sports personality of the year.
First West Ham trophy, top level trophy for, since 1980. All these things, all to come. Yeah. All to come. So we're talking about Declan Rice. Should be talking about Stretch, really. Sorry, and again, I'm stealing the airway. Just tell you a little bit about this 77-78 season. Were you going then, Nige?
That was my first season. As a season ticket holder, I'd been sporadically. Yeah, set me up for life, didn't it?
But this is, mate. I mean, if you look at Alvin Martin, we've got 3 relegations, 3 promotions. Has any other West Ham player in their career had that? And an FA Cup win? And a League Cup final? I don't think they have. And never will. Never will. I mean, Europa League trophy, but that's only the one.
How many's Mark had? How many relegations? 2 relegations. Yeah, 2 relegations.
He came in when we were already down, didn't he? So he's had 1 actually.
So Alvin Martin,
he's had 2.
Scored a hat-trick against 3 different goalkeepers. It's all these things in 3. 3 times Hammer of the Year. 3 times promotion, 3 times relegation. Was in that side that won the 2nd division by 13 points. And if they'd been playing the 1st division, we'd have probably finished in the top 4 or 5. And he learned his trade under Billy Bonds and eventually replaced him in 85-86 and eventually replaced him as captain after that. So, he was playing under really good players and he learned his trade under them. But this 77-78 season, West Ham, if I just get you, when he comes in and makes his debut, we're not in a very good position. 18th of March, we lose 4-1 to Villa. That's his first game. Then he's not picked for the next game, which is a game at Ipswich and one of David Cross's hat-tricks. That scored 4 at White Hart Lane as well. 3-0 we beat Ipswich. Next game, Chelsea 3-1. Birmingham away lost 3-0. That wasn't good. Coventry won 2-1. Leeds away 2-1. And Alvin Martin scores. So we hadn't won at Leeds for many years, 48 years or something. They were our Liverpool then. Okay, so the fans started getting, and I remember I've been supporting West Ham for 8 years then, going to all the home games and everything. We then beat Derby 3-0, and then we go to Manchester United. And Alvin has been a bit like Declan. He's a man of the match pretty much every game. And you think the kid, he's just a bloody youngster, a real youngster. But then he had a nightmare at Manchester United. We lost 3-0. We had a good bounce back away to Middlesbrough 1-2-1. Then we had to do something in the game against Liverpool. And the following season, 78-79, this would have been your second season. You were already having to look at second division football. That was the first time I'd ever followed a West Ham side that had been relegated. Worse for you, Nigel, because it was your first season. At least
you say worse. I think when you're a little kid, you don't really care or understand. I was 8 years old.
No, if you're right. I tell you what, I cried. I'm not ashamed to tell you. I cried on the way back from Liverpool, and I was nearly 20, for God's sake. I couldn't. They were all coming, and the old tears coming to the bloody. And it was also the way we surrendered after this fabulous last run. But then Alvin Martin doesn't play again until the following December, so that's quite interesting. I don't know that would. I mean, that would have been obviously John Lyle thinking.
I think he was injured.
He might have been injured. Because we were making all these things about why we went down. We shouldn't have gone down in 77, 78. In the same way as we shouldn't have gone in 88, 89, and shouldn't have gone in 2002, 2003. When we get relegated, so let's forget the Grant season, because that clearly we should have gone down. That was that. But there's so many times where we've actually had a really good squad. And that was a squad in transition, because we're talking about Jeff Pike coming through, all these young players who are going to be the Hammers team of the 80s. And it's
Kerbishley.
It's changing. Yes, Kerbishley, who played in that game. Kerbishley, who never really, I mean, he looked great early on, never really made it. I mean, he could have been, you imagine if he'd continued at that early start, a bit like Freddie Sears. So much thought about him, scores on his debut, and then never really got it together. But it was a change in the old guard, and there will be those who follow West Ham for as long as I have who probably say it was good they got relegated, because then they had to clear out a lot of the old stuff and rebuild. And Martin was part of those plans. So you were 8-9, Nigel. I mean, do you remember Alvin Martin very much in those early years?
Yeah. I mean, he came in and we had a great run, as you pointed out. I'm not sure. I'm not sure we say we deserve to go down, but we were playing Liverpool last game of the season, and that was against the team that were going to go and win the European Cup again. They were already European champions. I think Forest won the title that year, 78. So I mean, it was do or die. The one thing I remember about that game, because I always cite that game, it wasn't the first game I went to, because I think we played Man City at the start of the season. I did about 8-9 games. My uncle got a season ticket, but didn't take me every game. So I did about 8 or 9 games that season. Man City at the start. I remember a big win against Derby. Pop Robson getting, I think he got a hat-trick. He might have got 2. But then it was all on the Liverpool game. And I think the crowd for the Liverpool game was double what we'd been getting during the season. I've never seen anything like it.
37,448.
But if you look, I bet that was the biggest crowd of the season.
It
It was just... And I know, even though we'd lost 2-0, even though we'd got relegated, I don't know if it was because it was watching Liverpool as well, and my mum would let me sit up and watch European big games, so I knew the Liverpool team probably as well as I knew the West Ham team. And it was like I couldn't wait to go back. And we go back in the August. I think Alvin was injured. I don't remember him appearing, but I remember we beat, I think, Notts County something like 5-2 in the first game of the season. And you think, here we go, we're going to go back up. But I think that was the year of Palace and Brighton, and we sort of died and dropped away. But in a way, the first season of going down, we still had Alan Taylor playing for us. We still had Kirbishley playing for us. Yeah. And I think the failure to go up was when Johns looked at the best players that he had. Youth, I mean, Alvin there, Jeff Pike. The season after, 79, he started bringing Paul Allen through. There was a nucleus there, Paul Brush. I mean, you had a photograph up of Alvin in his youth team days. You know, it's very rare, you know, you get one or two players that make it. If you look at Alvin's youth team, I think there was about 4 that made it. But that one, and throw in Terry Erlock, who went and had a career at Millwall, Southampton, Reading, Brentford. You know, so, and that youth team lost in the Youth Cup final to Ipswich in 1975. So I
don't know what the Ipswich team was, but it was a good Ipswich team too.
Yeah, I think it was before the Alan Brazil, but I might have been like I don't know if like the Eric Gates and the Johnny Walks. I think Burley was playing. So it was you know, we had these young players coming through, and perhaps off the back of that 75 Youth Cup team, I don't know if Mervyn played or he was a bit too old for that one, but he saw that he could bring through some of these players. Some made it. Bill Lansdowne was in that photo next to, and he had a go, got a few goals against Southend one night, which I fell in love with the bloke, and then he scored one other goal and disappeared to Sweden.
It's just we've said it in previous programs where we've said about, you know, Jimmy Bullen and all these other players who, if things had just clicked, if you just sometimes for people like Sears and Kirbishley, the goal on debut becomes a curse, and worse for Kirbishley because BBC were there to cover it. So every bugger in the universe was saying, "Oh, there's this debutant for West Ham." And Kirbishley had it all on his shoulders.
I don't know. I think I thought Alan was when you're that young, you don't realise how young they were. I never realised how young Alvin was. Alvin was 21 when we won the FA Cup.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
So was Jeff Pike. I think Paul Allen 17. That's how young that team was. Big standout moment for me, I think, was when I think one of the most famous Steve Bacon photos is Bonzo with his head bandaged, and it was Alvin that kicked him in the head against Preston.
That's a man who knows his facts. Yes, a little known fact. The damage was done. The only one who was going to get anywhere near kicking Bonds in the head was going to be one of his own players.
Yeah.
And, yes, and that's the thing that Tony Gale and Tony Cottee on those evenings they do. That's always their start. Like, when did you first meet? When did you first find out about Alvin Martin, Bill? They would ask Billy Bonds, and he'll tell the story about that, and then usually someone will stick the picture up at the back.
Yeah, it's I remember that game. I don't know if that was the 5-0. It wasn't a 5-0 win. I think that was the season after Preston, because that was the cup run year. Because so it was January. It would have been January 80 then, because I remember I went to the Orient away game in the FA Cup. And that's when Bill had his bandage, and they called him Geronimo. Tommy Taylor nicknamed him Geronimo because Tommy Taylor was now captain in Orient. That day, he'd gone back to Orient. So, but I think he was the person to follow Bill as captain, and he'd sort of grow into it. I don't know though whether. He had good times as captain, but there were times when the crowd were on his back. And I mean, you got to think he played for 10 years for West Ham after losing the captaincy.
Yeah.
Mental.
Although increasingly less, if that isn't a contradiction in terms, as the days went on. But my memories of him playing, well, how tall he was, and how it doesn't necessarily follow that if you're tall, you're good in the air. But Stretch won pretty much everything in his little area, and You know, the only person I'd seen taller than him was Bill Green. So, but he was so young. And this was the thing. You always had this feeling when you have a good nucleus of players and they're young players, that kind of makes you confident about the future, because you think it wasn't like these days where you think the minute you get a decent player, some effort's going to buy him at the end of the season. And you're always looking about, oh God, I hope he doesn't have a good game against Manchester United or whoever. So that they're going to be after him or whatever. But the thing about Stretch was just how confident he was on the ball. I don't feel I'm exaggerating when I say he had the confidence of more on the ball. One of the very first players I'd seen to do that, quickly dispatch it, but he was comfortable on the ball or playing it off quickly. He had a good eye. He hit some good long passes. I mean, I stuck a couple of, it was a fabulous Kevin Keane goal you got in as a little bonus there, that one against Sunderland. But if you see, Alvin Martin wins the ball in the air and Keane is suddenly on his own, because Martin's gone forward, taken all the bloody defenders with him, flicked it, a little bit like Antonio did that time when Jesse Lingard went through against Wolves this year, where Antonio took the bloody defence with him. And that is the skill of a great player. You know, you do as much, even if you're not going to provide the final ball, you know how the game works and you can create space for other players. And he did. And I mean, he scored, I think it says on that 32, but he actually scored 34 goals. It was only, I think, let me just see, there were only 2 of his first 17 seasons when he didn't score. One of them was 87-88 when he played 15 games, and the other one was 91-92 when he only played 7 games. So that's just purely number of games. He would always be good for a goal. He was always hungry to score. And that, again, shows a certain amount of confidence. You know, I think these days the back line are always a little bit careful about pushing up too far forward, particularly now. But he didn't. And he had a good pair of legs on him. Nijinsky, he could be back in the 6-yard box. And of course, when Tony Gale arrived, that was a perfect person to be with him. I always think of Stretch and Tony Gale. They weren't together for the whole of Stretch's career. But when Gale came along, these two were like they'd always played together. And that thing of knowledge, that thing of, you know, what was the other one was Marcus and Ruddock was the two that went together least. And these two were the two. I started to feel, as a guy in his young 20s, you know, maybe West Ham could do something this decade, the 80s. I didn't know quite how good they were going to be. What do you remember about the 80-81 season? That's a team that won the league by 13 points.
Well, we got 62 points, I think, to win the league. And considering that our highest points tally in the Premier League at 3 points for a season, that was 62 points, 2 points for a season. 60, you know. So our second highest Premier League total was 62 points in 3 points for win. That just goes to show you how good the season that was. I mean, I can tell you that season inside out. I think there was 61 games played. I think we used about 15 or 16 players. Got to the final of the League Cup, including the replay, beating Spurs on the way, the semi-final against Coventry, Jimmy Neighbour, last kick of the game.
Fantastic, great memory.
The Dynamo Tbilisi game at Upton Park, we beat the Romanians, Polytechnic Timisoara, 4-0, blew them away at home. And we'd already beaten Castilla 5-1 at home. And you're thinking, here we go. And then these unknown, what we thought were Russians, but obviously Georgians turn up.
They were like machines, weren't they? Bang, 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 goal. And we were not with that team to be dispatched and taken apart. It was an awakener. Although when we then went up there and Pearson scored and we beat them, that was the first time they'd lost at home for 6 years or something.
Yeah. I think they'd even beat Liverpool or something the year before or the year after. That Tbilisi team was one of the best ever. I mean, I watched.
Nobody knew.
Yeah, nobody knew.
But it's like, as you said, these days, yeah, you just know.
82 World Cup. They had about 3 or 4 of the Tbilisi team, the Russians, and there was a David Coleman clip on Twitter the other day focusing on the Russia game. And they showed you some of the best players, and 2 of them were Tbilisi, and one of them they showed, and Coleman's doing it. And here's some of the goals the Russians have scored. And Shevardnadze was the one with the tash, I always remember, runs through and smashes it. And you think, oh, I recognise that goal. Yeah.
I mean, nowadays you can't get rid of it.
Remember goals so well now from a season than you did when you were watching them as a kid?
Probably not. No. I mean, I do have quite a good memory when it comes to West Ham, not shopping or anything else, or
from a good season, but an average. If I asked you about goals from the Avram Grant season, I guarantee you probably only get half of them. I probably wouldn't even get half of them. They say, scored, I don't know, 40 odd goals or something. Name me 10 goals from that season. Name me 10 players from that season.
I could have a go. I can tell you 4 straight away because obviously that was a Man United game. In the snow.
Yes. Yeah, that was the one in the snow. That was a great game, but that was like
the emergence of John Spector.
Momentarily on a different planet.
I mean, aside from that, I remember walking in that night and hearing the team announce, and you're thinking, "Well, I've just wasted my money then."
Spector in midfield is like
game with the snow, and you thought, I'm not going to get home. There's not going to be any buses. The trains are going to stop. I'm going to be walking 8 miles home against this side, having just turned us over 3 or 4. But you skipped home, didn't you, in the snow? It was great.
I'm not sure about that. But aside from that, the funny thing about that for me was I was protesting against the move, which went well, obviously.
Yeah.
And I was doing a petition outside the gates. So I'd done it on the Saturday, and now we had this game on the Wednesday. And I'd arranged a couple of mates, and we used to hang a flag by the front gates, and I'd collect the petition. Well, I was the only one there that night, and the weather was so bad. I stood in the phone box next to the gates. So those that know Green Street,
way to keep warm.
And as fans were walking past, I'd open the phone box and go, "Say no to Olympic Stadium, sign my petition."
The worst kicking clock in the world. Tell them what the petition was. I was going to say it'd be nice to have people guess.
Yeah. But I'd bought front row seats on the chicken one, so I could look at the owners and wave my flag at them, say no to Olympic Stadium. Little did I know they didn't make the game because they got stuck in the snow.
It's like the worst. It's like the worst ever cuckoo clock in the world. Like Nigel in his
The petition didn't go well that night.
Let's not take our eyes off Stretch then. Who's actually there's a lovely bit in that little thing where you can hear the fans singing about Alvin Martin.
Yeah.
He's got no hair, we don't care. But actually, he had hair for most of his career. It only sort of disappeared at the last bit.
Mid-90s,
and it kind of got a little bit, mine is, a little bit of the side thing. But in the end, he always looks very smart with it now. I mean, when he did the Billy Bonds naming, I mean, that was the perfect person to have doing the naming when he did that one, and everyone's like,
I think when you look at it, what you were saying about what we got to remember is about his ball playing ability was obviously he joined the club in '74, which was the year we lost Bobby Moore, that moved to Fulham. So, but he would have been brought in by Greenwood, who possibly saw a lot of his ball skills, and that's what Greenwood liked. He liked the ball playing centre halves. I remember once he signed a player. Well, I don't remember what I was told about. He signed John Cushley. You might remember from Celtic, who was a rough, tough centre half, and he smashed a few players in his first game. And apparently, Ron Greenwood had a word with him, and said, "No, John, we don't behave like that down here." You know. And then he then finishes as probably the next great. So there's 3 in a row of ball playing centre halves. Bobby Moore up to 74. Alvin joins, comes through his 4 years in the youth and the reserves, doing his apprenticeship. He then comes through, and then he hands it over to Rio.
All the great West Ham teams have had a holding centre back, confident on the ball, gives a little bit of volume. I heard somebody say, and I was impressed that they picked it out. One of the things we noticed doing the behind closed doors games was how much Angelo Ogbonna shouts at everyone. Shouts at everybody. He's the loudest guy. I mean, Fabianski's not exactly quiet, but Ogbonna is bossing it at people. And I mean, obviously, maybe his linguistic skills are greater than Declan Rice's. I don't know, but I suppose they find a common thing. But if you have a look at our best games last season, generally was with Ogbonna and Rice. So people don't necessarily put those two together. But I would say you look at our great performances last year, and some of the best ones probably were with those two, because they are both commanding, dominating players, can score goals, and are not shy of going up front. Think of those Declan Rice runs up front. Think of the Ogbonna goals at corners. And you're looking at something that Alvin Martin was doing time before that. And the point you made, I think, Nigel, which was the key thing, is this is a guy who won the FA Cup with West Ham in his early 20s. Now, bear in mind how long we've been waiting for the next trophy.
Yeah.
That was, you never know, do you? You never know whether this is, they always say enjoy it while it lasts, because you never know it's going to be the last.
Me. I am the you know, I was born in 1981, so, you know,
that's your T-shirt. That's your T-shirt, Russ. Courageous minds only. He's still a West Ham fan. That's courage.
Still here.
Well, just think about it. When you and I go and have 2 or 3 days in Marseille and see Rice snuff out Payet in the first game, I should say, where we go up there and nick a win with a late goal, and Rice just makes Payet look ordinary.
Sounds
and
great.
West Ham fans on their way back, for the ones who've had their double shots, are saying, "Bloody hell, good we got rid of him, really." Yeah. He didn't last, did he? You know?
Well, 18th of May next year, Seville.
Right.
That's all we got. That's it. Mark Noble's last game for West Ham. No, it won't be actually. Yeah, it will be. Yeah, no, it won't be. He'll play Brighton the week after.
Noble can only overtake one player, can't he? And that's the guy from the 30s whose name is just bloody
Jimmy Ruffle.
Jimmy, thank you, sir. Yeah, Jimmy Ruffle. But he's got to play a lot of games to beat him. We need a couple of good cup runs, and he'll need to be playing in all of them.
Is it not the big thing for Noble, actually, and Antonio? Has Antonio done it yet? Is the race to 50 goals?
No, they're both
Premier League goals.
Isn't it? Both on 48.
So Paolo's on 49.
Yeah.
We should have him back just for a couple of games and take a penalty or something. Lazio, if he's playing for Lazio, he could score an own goal. Would that count?
There's a competition. This texture. What West Ham managers scored? Future West Ham managers scored in the 8-1 win that Alvin got his hat trick.
Yeah, Glenn Roeder. It's a superb own goal. Rather than, and he said
the back heel, wasn't it? I think
he interviewed him about it afterwards, and he's not after then, but years later when he was managing.
Yeah.
And he said, anyone other than a West Ham player scoring, you know, I was quite pleased. I stopped them scoring, and I thought that is a strange way of looking at it. I tried not to actually have the ball in the back of the net at all. Although I don't know, I think it was.
Well, I mean, he probably grew up as a West Ham fan, dreaming of scoring for West Ham. He's achieved it.
Yeah, he achieved it.
And there were a few who said that, but he actually came back and managed Newcastle, and he did have.
Yes.
After that terrible time at West Ham, finish at West Ham, he had a really decent run, didn't he? But then when he was enjoying Newcastle beating us 2-0 at Upton Park, the fans started singing, "You're the reason we went down."
Yeah, the only thing about that game is I did think he over-celebrated. I get what it is and whatever, but I do remember it takes a lot. I'm pretty calm and everything, but when he's punched that air, I think if you look, I think we lost the game. Was that not the Shearer, Michael Owen 2 goals each?
Where who was the player, the Newcastle goalkeeper who got that tear, that horrible tear, where there were screams in the bloody changing room afterwards. Oh God!
Yeah.
Who was the Shay Given? Was it?
Shay Given was a Newcastle keeper, but
could have been.
Yeah. He
in the chat,
had a horrible injury in that game, and I remember. Anyway, why are we talking about that? We should be talking about
I was going to say, own goals is. I don't know if have you seen the Haiti keeper?
Yes, I tweeted it out. Thanks.
Good.
I'd like to say that I never did that, but actually, I think people that have played with me can point to a game where actually
that's a goalkeeper.
I didn't sort of kick it, but I did let one where I've gone to trap it, and it's sort of gone through my legs, and then you just think, "Oh, fuck it, it's gone in." And they all look at the same game. I saved the penalty though. So,
well, even the greats, that one where Peter Shilton playing for Stoke rushes out of his goal, completely misses the ball and falls over, and the Newcastle player just taps it in. You'd have to look it up on YouTube, but that is a particularly great one. But let's look. But you did any of you notice Stretch's magnificent own goal against, of all the teams to score an own goal against, Port Vale.
Away at Port Vale.
That was. But then he got sent off for the one he shouldn't have got sent off for.
Yes. Well,
for the one he should have got sent off for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, that one against Leeds. How did he not get sent off there? And then the guy who sends him off for Sheffield Wednesday makes a big show of looking at his shirt. What's your name, mate? Like he doesn't know who he is. It's Alvin Martin, you arsehole. So you're going to look at his shirt. You're going to go, what's your name? Martin. Yeah, I remember that name. Now I'm going to give you a red card, you. And then...
Do you not think he looked and dived into him? Do you not think he looked? I was sitting West Upper that day. And he looked at Mark Bright and dived into him. He knew what he was doing.
He was wearing his contact lenses for the first time, and he just shelled out a fortune for him, and he's not going to lose those. So he's looking for him, and unfortunately, he's just caught the player in his own half.
Yeah, well...
Sent off for stopping a player when you're in your own half?
Because there was no one behind him. There was only Ludo.
Yeah.
There we are. Well, everyone had pushed up. It's just like a Liverpool goal scored from a West Ham corner, not bringing up any horrible memories for us there.
Stop it, Martin.
Sorry, I don't know, I've got that.
PTSD.
Because everything's so good. If you talk about the bad stuff, then the good stuff happens.
It's a shit sandwich, isn't it? That's what you say.
Let's talk about Alvin's international career. Called up by Ron Greenwood. Was that game against Brazil? That wasn't the same one that Bonds didn't make, was it? If not,
yes, it was.
It was. What are the chances of that? Bonds, the guy who has brought this guy up, taught him everything he knows about football. Bonds ends up not able to play in that game, and Alvin Martin does. Is that one of football's little ironies?
Crazy, isn't it?
What was the score in that game? Anybody?
Was it a draw? No, it was.
We'll look that up in the meantime.
Look that up. I don't know if something in my mind says 1-1, but probably not.
Scribble it down, guys, and we'll give you the answer at the end.
I think I remember reading that Ron wanted Alvin and Billy. A lot of players were dropping out.
81, this is.
Yeah, I think a lot of players were dropping out these end of season games. Normally, they used to go to Australia around that time as well, because that's when I think Frank got back into the team for his second cap, 11 years after his first, or 9 years or something.
9 years,
stupid. 9 years, wasn't it? Yeah.
72 and 80, I think it was.
That's it. Yeah. So the next year, it was
stats.
they've gone to Brazil, and I think Ron wanted to play Billy and Alvin together. I think that was the plan, but then I don't know if Bill got a knock in the last game of the season.
Yeah.
And that stopped him from going. Was it the cracked ribs, I think?
Yeah, Frank Lampard gets his England cap against Yugoslavia, wasn't it? And Bonds does not get his cap. And I've certainly, nobody seen any of these is going to be surprised.
Bill's nearest cap was one of the first England games I remember, which was Ron Greenwood's first England game, I believe, against Italy. We couldn't qualify for the World Cup. Reeve walked out on England. They appoint Ron Greenwood. He plays Italy at Wembley. We win 2-0. I think it was near my birthday. So my 8th birthday. It was 77. And Bonzo sat on the bench, and I don't know if he got picked, but he was definitely in the squad, and he was definitely on the bench. I'm not sure if he was a named substitute though, but I think he was a named substitute. And for whatever reason, bearing in mind who the manager was.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, and the reason he's picked Bonds is because he'd managed him for, he'd signed him in 67. He's left West Ham in 77 to take the England job. First squad, he picks Billy Bonds, obviously Brooking. I think Trevor scored or set up Kevin Keegan in that game, and Bonzo don't get on. And then that's it. West Ham go down next season. Bonzo's England career
done.
It's
crazy,
just
isn't it?
But I mean, ultimately, that doesn't. If anything, that maybe raises their profile, or at least that gives us the chance to say it isn't about whether or not they were an international. But when you look at Alvin, you're looking at a guy who played 17 games for England, who was part of that squad in '86 that would have done something if.
If he'd have played against Argentina, Martin, and not Terry Fenwick, because I think what happened is we'd had obviously the bad time. I think we'd drawn against Egypt and then lost or something to Morocco, wasn't it? When Ray Wilkins got sent off, Bobby Robson's hands is forced. I think Robson's shoulder gets done. Wilkins gets sent off against Morocco. Changes it. Beardsley Lineker up front. We win 3-0. I don't know if Fenwick was suspended or he plays Martin against Paraguay. We win 2-0. We're in the quarterfinals. And Alvin was, not outstanding. For me, he was outstanding in the Paraguay game.
Making the net. You've beaten Paraguay 2-0. Argentina, okay, they got Maradona. They're a stronger side than Paraguay, but they are another South American side playing a pretty similar game. Okay, maybe 2 or 3 steps up. Why Terry Fenwick? Why?
I can't. That's the thing. I mean, the only saving grace is we get to laugh at Terry Fenwick's pitiful performance against Maradona, who I think Maradona goes past him twice.
Well, let's face it, Maradona wouldn't have gone above stretch with his fist, would he? It was one of them where we can sit back and go, you'd have played Alvin, I don't think we'd have lost.
Yeah.
We might have done, but on penalties.
Was Terry Fenwick playing for QPR at those days?
No, I think he was either joining Tottenham that season. He started at Palace. He was part of the team in the early 80s. He went then followed Venables to QPR. He was in the QPR team for the 82 FA Cup final. I'm pretty sure Terry Fenwick. I think 86 he might have already been at Spurs.
That's an interesting thing from Bertie Bass there. He said he's heard that Robson was saving stretch for the semi-final. I love the arrogance that he thought he just swarmed past Argentina.
Because we've had, Martin, we've had, in talking of England, we've had 43 players in our entire history who have played for West Ham and England at the same time.
What, all 43 of them at the same time?
Not all the time, yeah, but
right.
we still didn't win that. We still didn't win fuck all. So it's England. 43 players. Started in 1911 with George Webb. I had looked the other day.
It's going to be 50.
Do you know what George Webb was famous for?
No.
He was an amateur.
Really?
And also, George Webb's father-in-law, or stepfather, was one of the founders of West Ham, George Hone.
Fantastic.
Now we are really getting into that rarefied area of West Ham fandom, and that's. But let's look at Stretch and let's make that.
Did you say his last England game? Paraguay.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it
no,
was.
Sweden. It was Sweden, wasn't it?
Did he
played
Sweden?
Sweden.
Was that a friendly?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Is that when
the last competitive?
Yeah, last competitive.
Yeah. So Robson had his plans, and you can't argue with the side he put together for the World Cup in 1990. I mean, no, I rate Bobby Robson, and he loved Tony Cottee as well. So, Bobby Robson's all right there. But I was trying to do with Fenwick when I was saying, was he playing for QPR then, I was trying to do clever. It completely fell flat on his arse. But I was trying to do a really clever segue and go back to QPR to say we got Mervyn Day, who made his debut in a 3-3 draw as an 18-year-old against Ipswich. I was in the North Bank right behind. And he had a brilliant, even though he conceded 3 goals, and not quite Stephen Bywater conceding 4 goals on your debut, but everybody thought, fuck, this guy's really good. And Mervyn Day was good until he got caught out a bit like that the Scottish keeper with the Czech player. How about that? He's got 1 second to think, curls it right off, and the ball runs down the back. That happened twice to Mervyn Day. Once against Birmingham, once against Everton, and Day wasn't the automatic choice. So Ferguson had a little bit of a run, but then Ferguson, as Bonds once said at one of these evenings in this pub in Chigwell, he said, he chucked a couple in, Bobby. He chucked a couple in. I thought this was a lovely way of dismissing a keeper. And then Bill was sort of thinking, you got to get that straight. So he said, but he was a good lad. He was a good lad. Bill, you've just assassinated him. You said he chucked a couple in. I've got to say, Bill, you were right. Moore and Bonds, great because they were not always playing in front of great keepers, okay? So, which makes them great. But Alvin Martin was pretty much. He finished off playing in front of McCloskey, and okay, we have the fag end of the 80s. We won't worry about that. But for the majority of his time, he's playing in front of Phil Parkes. So again, you know what the next question is. How important to your progression as a great defender is it to have a world-class keeper behind you?
It's everything, isn't it? It's everything. I think we even like we've seen bar obviously 6 months where where Fabianski wasn't in, and the effect that Roberto had on just the whole team. It's like a.
And remember that goalkeeper that came in away to Chelsea and Southampton away, and actually who has someone was slagging off David Martin the other day on Twitter, saying that we haven't given him a new contract, have we? Do you know that he actually has one of the best clean sheet records? I know it's a bit like a Sam Allardyce England manager record, but it's still a bloody record. I mean, remember that game against Chelsea. Don't forget that. Don't forget how important that game was. And then the 1-0 win at Southampton. He was the keeper. Sorry, I just thought I'd give it. My little day.
No, just I say the importance of a strong goalkeeper is paramount, not just to the centre backs development, but also just the team. It's like a house of cards, isn't it? Because if the centre backs aren't confident with the goalkeeper, then the midfield aren't confident with the centre backs, and it all falls apart. And
if you're a defender, you got to have confidence in the man behind you.
Of course you do.
Because sometimes you could see with Roberto, they've got no confidence in him, and it affects their thinking. And sometimes you do the wrong thing because you're rushing, and you feel you got to do something because if they're gone, they've got him. They suddenly, I hate to diss a keepers union and all that, but Roberto was poor. Even though I still think Sasha Ilic was worse. I'm sorry, but anyway. Luckily, he only got 1 game.
Yeah.
So you remember Parksy again, a tall man. These are 2 supermen, ubermensches, aren't they, in West Ham history? Parkes and Martin, both incidentally who made my West Ham 11. Very important, not just the size of them, but the commanding, the domineering. Parkes, he absolutely controlled that area. Sometimes when he conceded a goal, especially if it wasn't a great goal, everyone went quiet in the ground because Phil Parkes didn't concede goals. He certainly didn't concede bad ones. And I'm sure you must remember that, Nigel, moments when the away side, if it was Oxford or someone, scored, and it was just back of a church when and Parkes, he picks the ball back out and chucks it, got it in his hand, just chucks it back.
Yeah, I mean, I feel Parkes possibly the signing that changed West Ham's direction in a way. But you know, the funny thing is that going off piste a bit was that Cloughie believed in having a great goalkeeper. And that's they started partly perhaps because Peter Taylor was a keeper himself, and probably it was Peter Taylor that did more of the scouting than Cloughie, for those that know about Brian Clough's history. But that was the bedrock, the spine of the team, and the spine starts with the keeper, not with the centre half. So it's keeper, centre half, centre midfield, centre forward. If you can line them all up, you got the basis of a great team. So if you look, we've got when Parks comes in, you got Parks, you got Alvin, then and Bill next to him, then you got Trevor in the middle, and then we had David Cross up front.
Yeah. And to come, we have Ray Stewart not far away. Again, a player you would think, if you're in the centre of defence and you see Tonka on the right, you're thinking he's good for it. You know, you're not thinking, oh shit. You see some of them, especially Sheffield United at the end of last season, the poor centre bloody back is hanging on the fuck am I going to pass to? He always had a choice. That doesn't count against him, of course. I suppose I'm throwing the cat amongst the pigeons and going to ask, would Stretch have been such a great player? I mean, he clearly was. Would he have been a great player in an average West Ham team, do you think?
I think he was at times.
The first team he came
You know, he did, what, 18, 19 seasons? There was a fair few that were average. Let's be honest.
Let's remember some of those teams. Come on then, Nigel, give us a season where Alvin Martin was playing in spite of the players alongside him.
I mean, if you look at the season 84-85.
Season before the great season.
So, right, we stayed up off the back of, from what I remember, we beat Norwich 1-0. Bobby Barnes scored a last-minute goal. I think Norwich went down, we stayed up, but we stayed up by 3 points. So if Norwich had won that game and we had lost it, now it weren't the last game of the season, it was towards the end. I think the last game of that season was Stoke, because that I think that was the year Stoke went down. But I definitely, but I remember Bobby Barnes popping up. But that 84-85 season, we were abysmal. It was, and you can tell how bad. And I know we talk about crowds, but go back and look at some of the crowds in football. And I know it was across the board in the early 80s, and it was hooliganism, it was social falling apart of the fabric of the area as well. But when we came up, 81, 82, fantastic. We brought in Van der Elst, you know, wonderful player. We still had the nucleus of the 81, but we were in a progression. We lost David Cross. I'm not knocking him. Dave Swindlurst, I remember what a great centre forward he was for Palace. He did okay for us. You know, he popped up with goals.
It wasn't Psycho. And
no,
Psycho
and that's
said, why didn't I leave? Psycho has often said that.
I mean, I watched a big match we visited recently of David Cross playing for Man City. And I think it must have been one of his good games for Man City because he was only there for one season. But he popped up with a couple of late goals. It was, you think, oh, if only you'd stayed with us that season, because, you know, it would have been fantastic. But we sort of tailed off, you know, as I said, I think 83, 84, I think, you know, vin ordinaire, if it was wine, you know, as Del Boy would say.
We had
bit of culture for you, Russ.
Love it.
You had a little bar at the bottom of the screen there.
Yeah, and you know, and that 84-85 season, the mirror in a way is we were so poor, and yet the next season we were so good.
Right, I'm going to put something this way. It won't surprise you It's a particular strain.
Steve Whitten, yeah. And that's, again, we brought Steve Whitten in I think, 83 from Coventry. But Steve was an East Ham boy. He was a West Ham fan, you know. He just didn't really fit in for some reason.
No.
And you can't really put your finger on what makes it go and what doesn't make it go. But you think about Alvin Martin, who's the captain of this 85-86 side, you know, and we're only really at 10:15 starting to talk about that now. But Bonds, it's the only season he doesn't play in his career.
Yeah.
And there is something, you talk about the elephant in the room, and a side that was built around Bonds, or Bonds built himself around. I mean, it was never, Bonds would never have done that, you know, off his own back. But West Ham, poor West Ham sides, depended on Billy Bonds so much. So suddenly, you're going to remember, we're looking at the 84-85 team that you're just talking about.
Yeah.
Bonds was there for that season. Suddenly he's not there. So you've got no Bonds. You're starting 85-86. So you're already without your talisman, who's been the centre of this great start in the 80s. No Bonds at the beginning.
No Brooking. Remember, Brooking retired at the end of 83-84. The Everton game was his last game.
Brooking's gone, and Brooking could have played another 2 years. He wanted to go at the top, and good luck to him. But then your number one striker, or certainly one of the one or two, Goddard, who's going to be scoring loads of goals with Tony Gotti this season, we hope, gets crocked in the first game. And then you've got this Jocko, midfield player that nobody's heard of, McAvaney. I heard someone call him once. McAvaney? What? Isn't it McAvaney? No, McAvaney. McAvaney, that's his name. Anyway, McAvaney comes down. Who the F is he? Goddard's gone, and you're thinking, no Bonds, no Goddard, that's it, we're fucked. And there we are at the beginning of what to this day remains our greatest season. So is it that you've got nothing to lose when something like that happens? Because those are two big, huge things to start. And if you throw into the mix, as you've said, Brooking, who was always gave West Ham that thing of the cultured thing, and that in a small amount of time when Brooking was playing with Cottee, it was only a handful of games of maybe a season or so. And you saw with Brooking feeding Cottee, and you got this dream of West Ham being special. But at the beginning of 85-86, and we didn't have a great start to the season, I mean, you all remember, you know, why did Alvin rise? Would he have risen if he'd been made captain, if Bonds had stood down and made him captain in 83 or 82? Or
didn't Bonds step down as captain and then Alvin take over before in that season?
It might be just, but it's kind of weird, isn't it? He then doesn't play at all in 85-86.
Well, no. And what happens is, remember, I think when Brooking went, Bill sort of thought,
no, it's
know what?
You
know, Trevor was his best. Well, yeah, Trevor was his best mate. So on the pitch, so he just felt something had gone, but he wanted to stay at the club. And I remember because he used to go over, Bill would play reserve football, and coach the youth. And I think it shows how bad we were after 85-86. The fact that we brought Bill back, because Bill would not have come back if we'd have carried on, because he wouldn't have been needed. He came back 87-88. Did he not win Player Hammer of the Year? He came back because we were in dire straits.
You've got Stretch, who plays 49 games in 84-85, plays 50 games in 85-86, plays 20 in 86-87, plays 17 in 87-88. No one ever says, when we went down, oh yeah, Alvin Martin only played half a season. Why? Wasn't Martin that important? That he was one of the reasons why we weren't that good in 86-87.
Well, I mean, we had Paul Wilton.
Yeah, I get your point. Well, we had Neil Orr played all those last games at the end of 85-86.
Yeah, Neil Orr was he was one of them players who I don't think John really knew what his best position was. He was the utility man. He
was an important person in 85, 86.
Yeah, he played a lot of games.
He played out of his skin. That was a player who played twice the player he was for those last games. They were all like that, though. They were all totally adrenalined up, 85, 86. And Tony Gowes says about at the beginning of 86, 87, we felt we were going to have another season like that. So I don't want to say that now. I think, is this going to happen to us next season with David Moyes? But Tony Gowes says, I think he said on the programme he did with you, Russ, I think he was talking about 86, 87, because I was listening to that in my car for some reason. I think I stopped somewhere and I managed to get the signal, because he'd been saying to me, you've got to listen to Gailey's one. It's absolutely brilliant. And it was. And in the end, I made myself late because I sat in the car listening. I didn't want to be driving along listening.
There you go.
Because you can't enjoy it. But he talked about no one could understand why they didn't do so well in 86, 87, because they pretty much have the same side. Obviously, McAvaney and Coty weren't scoring as many goals, although Coty still scored quite a few. But I put it to you, that it was because Stretch didn't play the whole season. That's got to have been a part of it.
We had a great start. We sort of died away. I think we got found out. I think that's what it was. I don't want to have a dig at John Lyall or being perceived as John Lyall, but the thing is, if you listen to the ex-players, they all say we failed to build on it. Yeah. Well, why did we fail to build on it? I'm not being funny. John Lyall at the time ran the club from top to bottom. He was the man that was in charge of it. And the thing is, he showed something we all like to see, which was loyalty to his players. And actually that team should have done better, because he built a good team, and a good team should get 3 to 5 seasons of greatness. But the thing is, that is West Ham. We never have 2 fantastic seasons back to back.
Right, guys. Okay, now you've locked yourselves up. I see you both nodding at this little theory you've just put together. Where are we going to finish next year then, eh?
Well, that's the thing. It's like 10th. I think top 10 is. I think top 10 will be a good season for us as a consolidation season.
Is it going to be another 86, 87 where we maybe win at Newcastle on the first day, beat Manchester United in those early games, then lose at home to Brentford, and then it all starts?
Well, 86, 87, I think we did play Man United in the third game and beat them 3-2 at Old Trafford. And Devonshire got a great goal. We were top of the table that day. I know it was only 3 games in.
It's sickening.
That obviously that was as high as we got.
Yeah. Well, you can't get the eye there, can you, Nigel? To be honest,
that overconfidence. We got
I don't know.
Players with the same manager.
Yeah,
got found out. How did we get fined? Did they man-mark McAvaney?
Well, the thing about Frank, perhaps we didn't pick up last time, was he scored, what did we say? He scored 28, 29 goals that season. Yeah. 20 of them, I'm sure, came before Christmas.
That's a good point. And a point Tony Coty made on his video.
Yeah. And that's why I think Tony Coty won Hammer of the Year.
He scored some after Christmas.
Yeah, I think that's why Tony Coty won Hammer of the Year, because Coty had the better second half of the season.
I love that James Mansfield said, "We are West Ham." I thought that said Jane Mansfield for a minute. That was frightening the life out of me.
She's a Tottenham fan.
She's
Look it up.
She's coming to say something to us. Don't wear a scarf when you travel in an open-top car. What? Where's that come from?
I don't know.
Right. Okay. So
move on.
87. That is a program, Russ. That's for your next series. What went wrong in 86, 87? Because it then took us 3 years to get relegated. What about 88, 89? Stretch was still around there. He actually played 31 games, so on and off. 42 games that season, so he was on there or thereabouts. Was that another team that shouldn't have gone down? We had a fantastic run in the FA Cup, beat Arsenal.
No, mate, that was a team that... do you know what? I tell people this, they don't believe me. I say, go look it up. We beat Liverpool and Bayern Munich to sign David Kelly. And I'm not laying it at David Kelly's doorstep.
Historic goal of his just earlier on, guys.
But he, bless him, I don't know, he just didn't fit in. You know, he just didn't fit in with the way we played. Even though I do think he did get 12 that season. So, which at the moment, you know, you'd think, well, that's not bad.
As long as someone else is getting 12 as well, if it's right getting 9.
But Mac, I mean, the New Year's Day, Norwich, Adam McNightmare gets christened McNightmare. And unfortunately, I blame the Sun newspaper because I swear it was them that gave him the nickname. And the fans pick up on it. And then on the terraces, oh, here we go, McNightmare. But people forget we got to the 6th round of the FA Cup that year. We also got to the semi-final of the League Cup where we lost to Luton badly at home in the first leg and then got absolutely demolished at their place in the second leg.
Where Steve Potts stood on the ball and lost the ball to the guy who scored the hat-trick.
No, that's the Sunderland game you're thinking of.
No, he did. He made a mistake.
No, that's a FA Cup. You're thinking of the bloke whose dad was in Shiwaddy.
I think about him all the time. I got those, that Under the Moon of Love.
Yeah,
just starts my head, and I've got this picture.
Yeah, I've forgotten his name, but you're right. He got hat-trick. I don't know if Johnny Artson was playing for Luton that night as well, but we lost to that was the. I think they won. I don't. Obviously, they got to the final, Luton. I think they beat Arsenal in the final, but I know that they had the likes of Mick Harford up front. He got a couple. So that 88-89, it sort of mirrored the Avram Grant season because we were brilliant in the cups. You know, we beat Liverpool 4-1 in the League Cup.
Yes, we did with Paul Ince scoring.
Yeah,
I like the way he lost the
Paul
ball.
Paul Ince scored a worldie away at Aston Villa.
That was a 1-0. That was the only goal of the game.
Yeah.
Ran the whole length of the pitch. And hit non-stop.
And it was a coming in age. That season was a coming in an age of Paul Ince in a way. And the thing you always find is the reason why we hate players that leave the way they do that they did was because they were so good. So if you look at the 3 people, Ince, Defoe, Lampard, why are they hated so much? If they weren't any good, we'd have waved them goodbye. Yeah. It was because they were that good that we felt.
And they went on to have a phenomenal career as well. So it's like a retrospective thing. It's like if they went off and ended up playing, I know Peterborough, all the rest of them disrespect Peterborough, but we wouldn't have given two shits about them. But it's because they're in our face all the time, wasn't it? On Match of the Day or scoring or winning Premier League titles.
I think about people that players like Danny Williamson and what happened to him when he went to. That's one of the few players that we actually got value for, but that's only because bad things happened to him at Everton.
I used to play golf with Danny. Funny enough,
like him, we lost one. We lost one.
He had an Achilles injury.
Yeah,
the season before, and he'd been out since September. And I think he'd finally got himself fit. I think he was supposed to play Barnsley away. We won 2-1, and Barnsley were top of the table at half time, 1-0. Believe it or not.
Was that the first game of the season?
First game of the season, yeah, it was. I tell you what, it was a bloody hot day that day up on that Barnsley terrace. But Scott Oakes, that's it, Scott Oakes.
Yeah.
Scott Oakes is like the name of a serial killer somehow. Yeah. I don't know if my brain's playing tricks on me.
Or Porridge, but anyway.
Or Porridge.
Sorry, Scott Oakes, if you're hearing. There's another Scott Oakes. We're not talking about Scott Oakes, the footballer.
Yes, so
other footballers are available.
Yeah, Danny.
Salacious comments.
Danny moved to Everton.
Yeah,
off the back of Slaven Bilic.
Yeah, Slaven Bilic at Everton. Yeah,
at the same time.
Yeah, some strange moments. Well, let's look at Stretch's heyday. His last, should we say, the last 3 seasons: 11 games in 93, 94, 28 in 94, 95. So he's had a serious season. His penultimate season, a serious season. So Harry is manager from 94, 95. So Harry likes him. Harry plays him more than twice. I mean, we could be talking injuries here. But I think Bonzo was never completely happy with him when he was manager in the later days. But Harry invested his energy into him. He played a lot in 94, 95. Not so much in 95, 96. He'd lost a bit of pace. And that's the other thing. I mean, it wasn't about pace with him. Like Moro, he had the skill on the ball, and he didn't need it, but he had the pace as well. But when he only had the skill, and then you're getting in there. He was still only 35, but he made a decision that was going to be it. Played down at Orient, but you just see that team he played in. This last game he played. This is the 11: McCloskey, Tim Breaker, Julian Dix, Potts, Reaper, Bilic. So Reaper and Bilic together. And Reaper are Danish, you just think the Danes have always flattered to deceive sometimes, but he was a great player. Bilic
went to Celtic and lost his big toe, if I remember rightly.
Right, like Freddie Titmus, maybe. That's another story. Ian Dowie, Tony Cottee. How interesting that Cottee is playing in that last season of... that they were together at the beginning. Well, obviously it was 5 years into Stretch's career, but the Cottee the Cottee thing with Alvin Martin as well, and Keith Rowland. I nearly called him Kevin Rowland. Then I suppose he's had enough of that in his season, and Danny Williamson. So that's a very different West Ham side to the one he joined. And you've got Lampard and Ferdinand. Lampard had already made his debut, come on against Coventry earlier in the season. But he comes on. There were 3 subs. And it's Alvin Martin, Frank Lampard, and Rio Ferdinand are the 3 subs on that day. I suppose, do you think that was how do you think about how... I remember Trevor's last game, home to someone we lost 1-0 to, Forest. Everton, was it? Yeah.
Forest was the Saturday where they had the big farewell.
Right, that's why I'm getting mixed up.
And then we played Everton on the Tuesday night.
But you think your great heroes should always end like we ended at Upton Park with the 3-2 win over Man United. But somehow, if you go with a whimper, I mean, I remember everybody singing his name, Alvin Martin, on that game particularly.
Well, listen, at least he got on, because Steve Potts didn't even get on.
Yeah.
Oh, that was that was Glenn Roeder, scorer of the own goal.
Yes, didn't even put him on.
But Glenn he's done more positive things for West Ham than the negative things. So I think we'll still raise a glass to you, Glenn, up there. Dear Glenn, who's not been out definitely. But yeah, I think Alvin. You've seen the 30 minutes has gone, so we're going to have time for the scores now. Now you know how this works. Jeff Hurst 10, Martin Peters 10, Bobby Moore 10, Phil Parks 10. So these are the 10s, and we've said already, haven't we, that Alvin Martin finishes his career he's just a few games short of 600 games. He is the 5th highest number of appearances for West Ham. He could have played for Everton. He might have played for QPR. He played for West Ham. He stayed there. He's a proper Steven Gerrard, Mark Noble, proper one-man team. Stayed there. Okay, he played a season for Orient. Right, that's next door. Orient nearly played at London Stadium, didn't they? Really, we're going to charge 4p to get in, and then they were going to fill the stadium. Remember the early days? But what do we say? What are you guys going to do? Now, I'm going to let Russ, who may not have seen as much of Stretch.
No, I didn't see that much. But I saw the.
It's not fair, but let's ask
92 onwards. Well, I obviously him as and in case he drops his grandson off at school tomorrow.
Don't want to get that wrong.
Exactly.
We have to talk about Joe, by the way, his other son, who's a who's pretty handy defender. Carry on.
Yeah. That's what I love about him. And he still does the school fate. That's what I love. He still does. It's really sweet. So Alvin, he's got to be up there. He's got to be an 8.9, a 9.
A 9.
Yeah.
Nige, what are you giving?
I was grinning because I'm thinking you shortchanged him because I was giving him 9.
Oh, there we go.
You are giving. So you're both giving him 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't even tell you about the time I met him at school. So.
How old were you? And
11. I got in trouble and all.
What on earth did you do to get in trouble? Having met?
Well, he came to my school to do a Q&A, and my form tutor was friends, so she arranged it. So she brought him down to Cumberland School in Plaistow, and Alvin did a Q&A. So I was his first year, so it's 81.
Right.
And the kids sit down, and then the kids were allowed to ask him a question.
Standing room only at Plaistow.
So I'm at the back, I'm putting my hand up, and my form tutor knew I was like the big West Ham fan of the class.
What are you going to ask?
So she goes, "Go on, Nigel, ask a question." I stand up and go, "Alvin, how much money do you earn?" And he went, "Oh, we don't play for money." That's what he said. We don't play for money. We could. But if you could have seen my form tutor's eyes just burning into me.
I am going to give him 9.5. Sorry, guys. I'm giving him 9.5. I saw most of his career, and there were a lot of West Ham good central defenders who couldn't hold a bloody...
If he hadn't gone to Orient, I might have joined in. If he'd have retired, so he only ever played for us...
I think that's really tough. Billy started his career at bloody Charlton.
Yeah, but we signed him, didn't we? You know, like Frank going to Southend, like Bobby going to Fulham. Alvin wasted his season at Leighton Orient. So yeah, he loses half a mark.
Got that bit in the film. Lots of people were after Alvin Martin in those first few years. They saw him. Certainly, when we came up, Manchester United were interested in him. I remember, or certainly it was in the papers. That doesn't mean they are, but I'm pretty sure they were. That was when. Was that when Alex Ferguson had just got to
86? Fergie joined October 86.
Well,
so early 80s.
It's a bit late. So
it was Ron Atkinson. He replaced Sexton in 81.
That's right. So it might have been Atkinson. But yeah, I'm quite comfortable giving him 9.5. I know he's not a 10, but I think he would have been a great central defender in any West Ham side. And I'm telling you, one of the you both know this, but one of the nicest blokes you will ever meet. A top bloke. I can't remember him ever having a bad word to say about anyone, apart from when he got sent off that time, but it was a wrong decision.
And one of only 2 players to do what for West Ham?
Score a hat-trick against 3 different goalkeepers?
No, one of only 2 players that I know of.
Only one other person. Just give us the year the other person did it.
The other person did it, I think, in 87.
What happened in 87? Score the only goal in the game against Coventry?
Miles off. If I said the other person's Billy Bonds.
Oh, okay. And Billy Bonds did it in 87. To have Bonds, that was his last season, wasn't it? 87, 88? No, I give up. Go on, Nigel. You beat me. What is it?
They both had 2 testimonials.
Oh, 2 testimonials against
Chelsea. Of course.
Well, how have we not talked about that? Nigel, you have the stage. That has to be talked about. The only 2 players who did it.
Yeah, only 2 players to have 2 testimonials. To know what? I remember the second one more than I remember the first one, which is a bit unusual for me. But the first one, the second one, I remember mainly because McManaman and Jamie Redknapp played for West Ham.
Yes.
And they're great photos to bring out. You know, we just show an action photo and go. Yeah,
that's when we won the FA Youth Club Cup with McManaman.
So do you remember when McManaman played for West Ham? Like, no, Alvin Martin testimonial. And Alvin's first testimonial, I think, was in 86, 87.
I know I've got it here somewhere.
And then he got his second one. It might have been earlier than that. It might have been 85.
His second testimonial was Chelsea, November 95.
That's
on the
right.
11th of the 11th. And against Spurs on the 21st of August, right at the beginning of 88-89.
Yeah.
So that's why we got relegated that season.
Well, yeah.
Alvin Martin, they gave him all the money at the beginning of the season, then couldn't buy anyone to get us out of it.
I mean, for me, Alvin's longevity, I think, stems from the fact that he came down so young at 15 and ingrained himself. There you go. And ingrained himself into the local area that we sort of not adopt him. You think Russ, and he only lives around the corner to you.
Yeah.
Or not far. Giddy Apart Man, I think. Not I'm going to give his address away, but no.
Let me tell you a story about Scousers and West Ham. This is the thing, and there's two guys playing in the same side, and I've actually witnessed this firsthand, right? Alvin Martin, a Scouser, all right? You can't get more Scouts than being born in Walton in Liverpool, right? So he's a Scouser. But, which I think, you think of Steven Gerrard, and they're that great Liverpool players who have done their seasons. But there's the strangest thing. I don't know if he had scored 100, if it would have been different. Tony Cottee scores 99 goals for Everton, right? And you never hear them sing his name, or they're seen as a great player. But his scoring record for Everton is phenomenal. And I think he was top scorer pretty much every season he played there. Bearing in mind, but he's come from London, so it doesn't work both ways.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why Cotty's not really enamoured of, or he's but the difference is when Cotty signed for Everton were off the back of winning the league, winning the FA Cup, had won in Europe in '85. The great Howard Kendall team. When Cotty turns up, it coincides with Everton's slump. So even though he was scoring, does he not join with? Does he not? I think he plays with Beardsley or something like that. But it coincided with this slump of Everton, where he played in the famous 3-2 win, didn't he? Not against Wimbledon, where Everton, if they'd have lost, the game would have gone down, and they were 2-0 down in the second half.
4-4 though, when he comes on as sub.
Yes.
And scores.
That's right. In the FA Cup. And we got Everton in the next round.
He's done 100 things to be a hero for there, but they don't mention him. And that's what I'm thinking, because you've got to say, there's a lot of things to love the Scousers for. The fact that nobody buys the Sun there, I don't think Tories get a single vote, even on the bloody councils in Liverpool. Two brilliant things, but they don't love Cotty. Scousers, you got a chance. If you're listening to this, get your act together. This guy scored 99 goals for you. He was the top scorer every season he played for you. Start celebrating his genius. Give him a goal so he got 100. Then you'll have to start loving him. He just wanted to make it easy for you by not getting that 100th goal. But when a Scouser comes down to London, he's treated like royalty, because he was royalty. He's Alvin Martin. He's got no hair, but we don't care.
Indeed.
And he gets 9.599. So what is that? 9 and 1.75 out of 10. That's pretty good. Let's face it, that's the most we've given anyone on one of these programs. Am I right? Am I right?
I think so.
You are scoring more than anybody else so far. We ain't done Dixie. There'll be a fight there. We'll all have to do this live from Nigel's man cave. So it'll end up in a bundle when we disagree over what Dixie should get, I'm sure.
Lovely, gentlemen. As always, thank you very much, guys. Thank you much, Mr. Godleman. Thank you very much, Mr. Nigel Kahn. Available on canningtownlen.com. There we go. That'll keep Len happy. Cheers, guys. Pleasure as always. I'll just sign everyone off. Thank you, you two.
What about the competition?
Oh well, I'm doing the competition.
I thought you were going to go then.
No, but I've got to share the screen, and so it's easier.
I've been hashtagging stretch non-stop.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to win. Nigel. Anyway, the competition. As always. Anyone who's put stretch or made a comment, we add them into the thing. We do it's a clever little thing we do. And so let me just share my screen, and the winner will win a lovely Untuck It shirt. That's about 50, 60 quid. If I should have done it last week, you could have given it to your dad for Father's Day. There we go. Right, okay, let's draw it. Let's see who's won. And the winner is... It can't be me. If it's me, I'll redraw it. Is... Paul Bass. Congratulations, Paul Bass. Well done. Give us a shout. Paul, drop me an email.
Do you think his nickname is Shandy?
Shandy? Yeah, Shandy.
That's what he will be forever known as, Shandy.
Paul's a lovely guy. Available on Miami's 11. So, Paul, give us a shout. Miami's@gmail.com. We'll get your details, and then we'll get a lovely Untuck It shirt sent out to you. So, obviously, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to everyone for watching as well. Don't forget Irons Food Banks. Nigel's got his T-shirt on. Mine is coming, John, isn't it? I hope so. Hopefully next season, we'll be all back, and they'll be able to start shaking their buckets and raising some money for the food banks now. Obviously, the fixtures are out. We didn't mention about it, but fixtures, obviously, not a bad spread for us this season. So we'll see what happens.
Brighton, though, we better not need to win that.
Thanks. Very good news there, Martin. Thank you so much. Anyway, for myself, from Martin, and from Nigel, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Get those jab appointments when you get your text from the NHS. Come on, you Irons, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone. So, have a good night. Good night.